Welcome to The Book in Brief. Today's spotlight is on The Crucible by Arthur Miller, a timeless tragedy that examines the consequences of mass hysteria, personal guilt, and moral courage. Set in 1692 during the Salem witch trials, the play serves as an allegory for the McCarthy-era Red Scare, when Miller himself was scrutinized by the U.S. government for alleged communist ties. The narrative follows John Proctor, a flawed but principled man, who stands against a tide of paranoia threatening to destroy his community. As accusations of witchcraft spread, characters are forced to choose between self-preservation and truth, between silence and integrity. Now, let's dive into the 4 acts of this powerful drama. Act 1. Fear Awakens. The play opens in the upstairs bedroom of Reverend Samuel Parris's house in Salem, Massachusetts, in the spring of 1692. 10-year-old Betty Parris lies inert on the bed, her eyes closed, unresponsive to calls or movement. Reverend Parris kneels beside her, gripped with both fear and outrage. He is less concerned with her physical health than with the potential scandal that could erupt if the townspeople discover what he saw. His daughter, his niece Abigail Williams, and several other local girls dancing, possibly naked, in the forest under the moonlight the night before. In Puritan New England, where religion governs every aspect of daily life, such behavior is not merely frowned upon. It is considered evidence of consorting with the devil. Parris is terrified that this transgression, if exposed, will undermine his already fragile authority as minister. His sermons have grown unpopular. Many townspeople criticize his greed and arrogance, especially his insistence on golden candlesticks and grand gestures of status. He suspects enemies are watching, waiting to seize upon his failure. The incident in the forest could be exactly what they need. Soon, Abigail enters the room. 17 years old, orphaned by violence in her youth, and now living with her uncle Parris, she is charismatic, cunning, and dangerous. When he questions her about the night in the woods, she insists it was just harmless dancing. But when Parris presses her about rumors of witchcraft and a strange potion, she becomes defensive. She deflects, denies, manipulates. She reminds him that enemies would love to see him fall. Betty's condition worsens. She lets out a shriek and tries to leap from the window before collapsing again. Other girls begin to arrive, most notably Mercy Lewis and Mary Warren, along with Ruth Putnam, who is also inexplicably sick like Betty. It becomes clear something strange did happen that night. The girls are on edge. Abigail violently threatens the others to keep their stories straight. "Let either of you breathe a word," she hisses, "and I will bring a pointy reckoning that will shudder you." Anne and Thomas Putnam arrive, deeply concerned about their daughter Ruth, who has also taken ill. Anne, in particular, is obsessed with the idea that witchcraft is responsible for the death of her 7 infant children. She is desperate to believe that unnatural forces, not natural misfortune, are to blame. Her grief becomes a weapon. Thomas, meanwhile, sees opportunity. A greedy landowner, he hopes to use the accusations as a way to seize land from the accused. Parris, unable to contain the panic, calls for Reverend Hale of Beverly, a young and zealous minister trained in identifying signs of witchcraft. When Hale arrives, he carries heavy books weighted with authority and a confidence that he can detect and root out evil. He begins questioning the girls and Tituba, the Parris family's enslaved servant from Barbados. Caught in a web of fear, racism, and prejudice, Tituba becomes the scapegoat. Terrified and cornered, Tituba confesses not because she is guilty, but because she sees no alternative. She speaks of visions, of dark forces, of the devil offering her freedom and love. She begins naming names, Goody Good, Goody Osborne. The atmosphere shifts instantly. Now, instead of suspicion, she receives praise for her honesty. Abigail sees this and understands the power it offers. Abigail, who only moments ago was the prime suspect, transforms into a victim turned hero. She declares that she too has seen the devil and many others with him. The other girls, emboldened by the attention and the release from blame, join in, chanting names in a fevered trance. It's unclear whether they truly believe what they say, but it no longer matters. Their words are accepted as divine truth. By the end of the act, what began as fear and denial has become public hysteria. The girls' lies are treated as revelation. The town of Salem, already a tinderbox of suspicion, repression, and personal grudges, is now ablaze with accusation. The witch hunt has begun, and no one is safe. Act 2. The Web Titans. We transition to the quiet, tense household of John and Elizabeth Proctor. The couple's relationship, once passionate, has grown brittle. Elizabeth prepares a simple dinner in silence. John arrives home from the fields, and though they exchange pleasantries, there is a wound that neither can ignore: John's affair with Abigail Williams. Elizabeth has not forgotten. John is ashamed but frustrated that his attempts to regain her trust are met with icy reserve. Their conversation shifts from personal tension to public panic. The madness in Salem has grown. Dozens of people have now been accused of witchcraft, many of them respected citizens. The Proctors speak with quiet dread about the direction of the trials. Elizabeth tells John he must go to the court and expose Abigail. She's convinced that Abigail's motivations are deeply personal. She wants Elizabeth gone. John knows this too, but he's afraid. He lacks proof. The only evidence is Abigail's word against his. Mary Warren, their servant, enters, glowing with self-importance. She has been attending the trials and now views herself as a kind of deputy to the court. Her tone is smug, even superior. She gives Elizabeth a small, handmade doll, a poppet, and recounts proudly how she saved Elizabeth's name in court. But her presence only deepens the tension. Elizabeth senses something terrible is coming. Suddenly, Reverend Hale arrives. He is courteous but intense, asking probing questions. Why does John rarely attend church? Why isn't their youngest son baptized? Why does John stumble over the commandments, especially the one forbidding adultery? John, bristling, explains his disapproval of Reverend Parris's sermons, which seem obsessed with wealth and damnation. Their fragile calm shatters when Ezekiel Cheever and Marshall Herrick arrive with a warrant for Elizabeth's arrest. Abigail has accused her of witchcraft, specifically of stabbing her through supernatural means. The poppet becomes key evidence. It has a needle in its belly, and Abigail was supposedly found with a similar wound. Mary tries to explain she placed the needle there while sewing, but the authorities are unmoved. Elizabeth is taken in chains. John is enraged. He sees the full picture now. Abigail is manipulating the entire town, using the hysteria to destroy Elizabeth and get what she wants. He demands that Mary testify and come with him to court. No matter the cost, he will fight this, even if it means destroying his name. Act 3. The Court of Shadows. We enter the sweltering chaos of Salem's court. Judge Danforth sits at the center, flanked by Judge Hathorne and surrounded by clerks, marshals, and townspeople. Dozens have already been condemned. The court is no longer a place of justice, but a stage for spectacle and vengeance. The weight of theocratic authority saturates every corner of the room. The judges, committed to the moral clarity of the court, see any questioning as a threat to divine order. John Proctor, Giles Corey, and Francis Nurse arrive armed with depositions and truth. They present a document bearing the signatures of 91 townspeople, all attesting to the good character of the accused women. Rather than considering this as a sign of innocence, Danforth, deeply suspicious, orders the arrest of every signer for further interrogation. In Salem, neutrality has become a punishable offense, and doubt is synonymous with guilt. Giles Corey tries to prove that Thomas Putnam has encouraged his daughter to cry witchcraft so that he can seize the land of those convicted. But when asked to reveal the source of this claim, Giles refuses, unwilling to bring harm upon his friend. Danforth calls this contempt of court. The justice system, now devoid of compassion, jails Giles for protecting the innocent. Mary Warren, pale and trembling, finds herself center stage. She tries to confess that the girls have all been pretending, that there was never any witchcraft. She says she only joined in out of fear and social pressure. The court listens, momentarily intrigued, but then Abigail enters. Abigail Williams radiates control. As Mary speaks, Abigail begins to shudder. She gasps, then points to the rafters. She claims to see a yellow bird, Mary Warren's spirit, trying to attack her. The other girls follow suit, creating a scene of chaos and supernatural horror. The judges are spellbound. Mary, under unbearable pressure, begins to crack. Her words falter, her hands shake. She tries to assert the truth, but is swallowed by the noise. John Proctor, in a desperate attempt to reveal Abigail's motivations, confesses his affair. He denounces her as a harlot and warns the court that her actions are driven by lust and revenge. Danforth is stunned. He brings in Elizabeth Proctor to verify the claim. Elizabeth, unaware that John has already confessed, denies the affair to protect him. Her lie, meant as an act of love, becomes their undoing. Abigail seizes the moment. Her performance intensifies. Mary, caught between truth and terror, breaks. She turns on John and screams that he is the devil's man. The court erupts. John, betrayed and broken, shouts that God is dead. He curses the court and its blindness. His cries echo through the chambers. Reverend Hale, who once championed the trials, now sees the full scope of the corruption. He denounces the court and walks out. Proctor is arrested. Reason has drowned in hysteria. Act 4, The Price of Integrity. Months have passed. The town of Salem is broken. Fields lie untended. Livestock roam the roads. Orphans cry for parents who hang in the gallows or rot in jail. Reverend Parris is unrecognizable. Weeping, desperate, and fearful, he reveals that Abigail has fled, taking his savings, and begs Danforth to postpone the hangings. Danforth refuses. Postponement, he argues, would suggest doubt in the court's decisions. Better to let innocent people die than admit the court was wrong. Reverend Hale has returned, no longer the sharp-tongued minister of Act 1, but a broken man begging the accused to lie, to confess and live. John Proctor is brought forth. He is gaunt, haunted, but resolute. Hale and Parris beg him to confess. Elizabeth is brought in. Their reunion is quiet and sorrowful. She tells him she cannot judge his choice. She says she has her sins too. In their pain, they find a sliver of peace. John agrees to confess. He wants to live, for his children, for Elizabeth. He signs a statement but refuses to let it be posted on the church door. "I have given you my soul," he says. "Leave me my name." To live without honor, he realizes, is worse than death. He tears the confession. Danforth is enraged. Elizabeth, quietly crying, refuses to stop him. "He has his goodness now," she says. "God forbid I take it from him." The gallows await, but John Proctor walks to them with his dignity intact, the one thing no court could take. The curtain falls. 1. Hysteria and fear. The play illustrates how fear can spread uncontrollably, overriding logic and morality. In Salem, hysteria drives people to turn on neighbors and loved ones, mirroring the McCarthy-era panic over communism. 2. Reputation and integrity. Characters struggle to maintain their social standing. Reverend Paris clings to reputation at all costs, while John Proctor's journey is about reclaiming his integrity, even if it means death. 3. Guilt and redemption. Proctor's internal battle over his past sin leads to a quest for redemption. His ultimate refusal to lie represents a powerful act of personal salvation. 4. Power and manipulation. Abigail uses fear to gain control and enact revenge. The rigid court system enables her manipulation, prioritizing authority over truth. Symbols. The Crucible represents a severe test or trial, symbolizing the character's moral struggles. The doll, a seemingly innocent object turned into a tool of false accusation. The court, a symbol of institutional failure, blinded by fear and pride. The Crucible is a haunting depiction of how societies can turn on themselves when fear eclipses truth. Arthur Miller crafts a cautionary tale rooted in historical events but relevant across generations. It challenges us to speak out against injustice, even when the cost is high. John Proctor's final act, choosing truth over survival, leaves us with a poignant reminder. In a world gripped by hysteria, individual conscience is the last refuge of honor.